Ladies and gentlemen, that takes us to Key Standard 6.3, Indigenous Responses to State Expansion from 1750 to 1900. So first of all, Indigenous people are the people that live in an area before they get conquered by an imperial foreign power. Increasing questions about political authority and growing nationalism contributed to anti-colonial movements. So just about everywhere that there was this American or Russian or Japanese or European imperialism in this time period, there were people who rejected and disliked those imperialist movements. So anti-imperial resistance started to take various forms, including direct resistance within empires and the creation of new states on the peripheries. So some of the new states on the peripheries of empires include the Cherokee Nation, which was on the edge of the United States of America. It was a legal, autonomous government recognized by the USA. Many of the people who lived there were forcibly moved in 1838 on what we know as the Trail of Tears. Nowadays, it's almost entirely within the state of Oklahoma. So now it's U.S. territory, but there is this indigenous people inside the same area. Next is the Zulu Kingdom, which was created on the edge of the Dutch and the British Empire in South Africa. It was founded by Shaka Zulu that was later absorbed into South Africa. And then next up are all the different states that are emerging in the Balkans, like Greece had started to emerge in 1830. As the Ottoman Empire declined, 12 states eventually fought and gained independence into the 20th century. And then when Serbia and Bosnia start to get fought over in the same region, that's when World War I is going to start there in 1914. Next is the Sepoy Mutiny in 1857, where the Indians tried to rebel against Great Britain. In South America, in Peru, Tupac Amaru led a rebellion against the Spanish settlers. The rebellion was from 1780 to 1782, so right near the end of the same time period where the U.S. Revolution's happening. Amaru led a mestizo rebellion against reforms that the Spanish leaders had created. Amaru was executed in 1781, but the rebellion continued on until 1782. Next is Samori Touré's military battles in West Africa, in particular Senegal, fighting against the French. Samori Touré was a Muslim leader of parts of French West Africa that had been conquered by the French. He led a series of rebellions against the French from 1882 until 1898. He was able to fight against the French because his army acquired weapons from the British to fight against the French. Next up is the Ya Ashanti-Waa War in West Africa. Ya Ashanti-Waa was the leader of the Ashanti in what is current-day Ghana. In 1900, she led a war against the British and was captured and sent into exile in the Seychelles. The war culminated in British control of this portion of West Africa, at least until World War II ended and decolonization came around. The 1857 rebellion in India happened because the British did not respect Indian culture. They had new bullets that were smeared with animal fat, and you were supposed to bite off the end of the bullet, and the Indians didn't want to do so because of Hindu objections to consuming beef and Muslim desires not to consume pork. Next up is the Boxer Rebellion, which happened in China. It was a rebellion against foreigners. Boxer was the popular name given to members of a secret organization called the Society of Harmonious Fists. Members practice a system of exercise known as, it's a type of shadow boxing they thought would protect them from bullets. Boxer bands roamed the countryside and slaughtered foreign missionaries and Chinese Christians. Response to the killings, though, was immediate and overwhelming. An allied army consisting of 20,000 British, French, German, Russian, American, and Japanese troops all attacked Beijing in August of 1900 and occupied the city. Examples of new states, again, are those in the Balkans. The Sokoto Caliphate in modern-day Nigeria. The Sokoto Caliphate was created by Usman Dan Fodio in 1804. It united several of the Hausa nations, but was defeated by the British in 1903. And hence, in addition to Ghana, the British will also take the rest of what we know as Nigeria, the Cherokee Nation in the Americas, and the Zulu Kingdom in South Africa. Increasing discontent with imperial rule led to rebellions, some of which were influenced by diverse religious ideas. Examples of rebellions include the ghost dance inside the United States. The ghost dance was practiced by the Lakota and other Native Americans around 1890. They believed that doing the dance properly would unite the spirits and make the white colonists leave the area. Next up is the Xhosa cattle killing movement in South Africa. The Xhosa are an ethnic group in southern Africa. By 1856, the Xhosa had been battling with the British for decades. A 15-year-old prophetess named Nonkwase started preaching that she had had a vision of spirits that commanded that the Xhosa would kill all their cattle and destroy their grain, and in exchange, spirits would push the British out to sea. The Xhosa killed between 300 and 400,000 head of cattle, and the killing led to a totally devastating famine. Kefraria's population dropped from about 105,000 people to about 27,000 people. The ancestors, however, did not return. Their herds did not miraculously reappear, and the white people remained stubbornly in place. Simultaneously, an epidemic of lung sickness swept the region, killing any cattle that had escaped the slaughter. A terrible famine ensued. Thousands died, and many thousands more were forced to find work in the Cape Colony as migrant workers, and they began moving into these things that we'll call Bantustans later on. Next is the Mahdist Wars inside Sudan. The Mahdist Wars were fought between Sudanese forces led by Muhammad Ahmad bin Abd Allah and the British forces. The British victory led to a British and Egyptian rule over the Sudan. Ladies and gentlemen, that's Key Standard 6.3.